For thousands of years, elders and knowledge keepers have used stories to educate future generations. Stories and words can help heal our hearts and make Mother Earth a better place for all people. This is Healing Hearts.
Hello everyone, welcome to Healing Hearts. I'm Tracy Koga. Well, tonight we're going to answer some questions. Can the arts bridge the gap between cultures? And can words heal wounded hearts? Tonight, it is the time for the artist to speak. So we're going to welcome Jeannie Whitebird. She's a traditional helper and muralist. Her mentor, Charlie Johnston. And we're going to have Duncan Mecredi, Winnipeg's own poet laureate, and an up-and-coming artist, Bistyek. So let's begin the talking circle. Let's start Healing Hearts. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Healing Hearts. And I just first want to say a big thank you again to Immigration Partnership Winnipeg, Knowledge Keeper Clayton Sandy, for being the co-creators of this incredible show. And tonight I'm so excited because it's something dear to my heart, the arts and culture. So it's all about sharing your lived experiences. I'm going to start with the ladies first. Jeannie Whitebird. We have met before, Jeannie. You have an incredible story, a self-taught artist, a muralist, and we're going to bring in your mentor too, and what Charlie has meant to you through all of this. So please, let's start with you, Jeannie. Share your story and how art became part of your life.
Okay, well, first of all, Tracy, I want to say, miigwech, thank you for inviting me back. This is a beautiful show, and the first time I met you was just, I was so heartfelt because you helped me bring a voice to the artwork that I was honored to be a part of, to commemorate the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Mm-hmm. So this one in particular is another commemoration. But first, I want to reintroduce myself. You know, when I was, I went to an elder, and those elders say that our spirits have always existed, that our spirits will always exist. So when I gave him that tobacco, he said to me that Dibikikisis, Grandmother Moon, gifted me my spirit its name. That name is Jawanang Benese Kwe, and that translation is South Thunderbird Woman. Now, when I was born into this world, onto Turtle Island, my parents gave me a name, Jeannie Whitebird, and and we come from a community called Diti B'nai Bising. That's Rolling River First Nations. So and that translation is where the river rolls. So I'm also honored to have a second community here in Selkirk, Manitoba, where I've raised my two children, Asa and Alvina Red Eagle. So that's, you know, I like to always honor the people who have gifted me my name, and to honor the place where I come from, my two communities. So I've been here in Selkirk, Manitoba for about going on 20 years. And I've been honored to use this place and to have this time to heal, to help heal from the traumas of my early childhood traumas, and to actually find my own, to help search for my own identity as an Indigenous and an Indigenous woman. And along that way, you know what, along that healing journey, when I began to have my own foundation in my teachings, the 7 sacred teachings, and to get to know more about the sacred medicines. So when I started to have that foundation, then I was able to start figuring out how I wanted to express that. And one of those ways you know, as a youth, I always knew that I was creative, although, you know, along the way, you know, in grade, probably in junior high is when when I wasn't really given that opportunity to continue that artistic, those artistic classes. And it was during that time where other things came into play, where I was transitioning through a lot of different places. One of the things that I've also shared is that I'm a 60 scoop survivor. I went through the foster care system. I was adopted out, and you know, it was during that time, during those transitions, you know, that I experienced a lot of trauma. So what had happened, what, you know, our artistic, my artistic teaching, so that creativity was kind of put on hold for a period of time. So I have found when now that I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard to concentrate with the racquetball in the background. But when I was able to go back to my foundation, to go back to those teachings, then I was able to find a creativity that I was able to explore more about what it meant, and to start expressing myself in this way. So probably in the past about 2 years, I've been able to get into a mentorship program, a mural mentorship program with my friend Charlie Johnston, you know, who I call him one of my my greatest allies, you know, because he has that spirit. He has such a beautiful spirit as a non-Indigenous person. You know, he plays a significant role in these creations, you know, that I'm a part of. So that's just a little bit.
I'm going to bring Charlie into this conversation now too, and to talk about this new work, and just to let people know that we wanted Jeannie to be in the workspace where all this creation happens, and it obviously is a gym, so there is some pickleball going on too, folks. So, but anyways, regardless though, Jeannie, it's such a beautiful story. And Charlie, to you, let's talk about art and what you do and what you bring, and what was the connection that you had with Jeannie, and what did you see in Jeannie that you could create like a masterpiece?
Well, thank you, Tracy. Well, first of all, I'm just going to comment that it's not unironic that there's gymnastics going on in the background, because mural art is an all-consuming practice. I like to differentiate mural art as being an art form unto itself, and like it shouldn't be not really lumped in with painting. It's quite literally, the world's oldest art form, predating everything, even ceramics as just a simple form of expression and communication and a way of storytelling. And I see mural art as that's one of its greatest powers is collective storytelling. It's open to everybody, and everybody has a chance to experience it and participate in the process, either watching a mural unfold on the street, which is a beautiful thing, or just seeing a mural go up. So yeah, it's what I do. I've been a muralist, and I've done large scale public art for 33 years now. It's quite all consuming. I do other art forms as well, believe it or not. I also do sculpture. I've done public sculpture, private commission. I've worn a great many hats in the course of my career as a professional visual artist. And my journey started, well, when I was born. The joke was that I was doodling on the inside of my mother's, my womb, when it came out, it had little doodles all over it. So I was extraordinarily fortunate in the sense that no one ever told me not to do it. No one ever made me stop. I washed every desk in grade school because they were all covered with doodles. I never felt any barriers towards the creative force I felt within myself and that connection I felt to the ultimate creator through that practice. I feel very lucky and very blessed, and I've just never stopped. So it's been a long journey. It's been a lifelong journey for me, and it's a journey that will not end until I leave this mortal coil, quite frankly.
So Charlie, I'm just going to interrupt because a thought came to me. So you talked about, always having this freedom to do your art. What has been your experience now working with Jeannie, hearing her story, 60 Scoop, the murdered and missing Indigenous young women and young girls, and doing these murals that are so powerful, helping her tell her story? What effect has that had on you? And then we're going to get into this new mural, which is incredible.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy. Well, it's had a profound effect on me because, for a large part of my career, I'm the kind of muralist or artist who I don't just express my own vision. I've quite often been like a voice for the voiceless, or I've been asked by a great many communities, not my own, to tell their story, to speak their truth, and I've expressed that in a whole bunch of different places around the world, from Iqaluit to the south of Florida, from New York to China. I've told the stories of so many different communities that are not my own, because I consider myself to be first and foremost a citizen of Earth and a child of Mother Earth, above and beyond borders, boundaries, racial barriers, you name it. So I'm very comfortable with that role. And sometimes, but I've learned over the years that there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And the way to do it, of course, is inclusivity, to be asked to be the voice, to offer a skill set which I've been accumulating for decades to a community, to help the community tell their story, to weave their narrative, to speak their truth, and to share that in the spirit of growth, of evolution. I believe that my core mission is to use art as a way to evolve the collective consciousness, and I feel that the best way to do that is through public art. I mean, private art's awesome. It's great to have do a piece and put it in a gallery and find somebody who loves it so much that they want to live with your piece and have it become a part of their family. Selling art is like running an adoption agency. You're trying to find homes for your babies,
No doubt. So maybe, Jeannie, you can jump in here now. Let's talk about Save Our Children, or Save the Children, this new mural. We do have some photos of some of the finished pieces of it, but tell us the story behind it. Jeannie's muted now. You have to unmute yourself, Jeannie.
Can I say one more thing, Tracy?
You certainly can. Yes. Jump.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to answer your question, which was, how did I come to mentoring Jeannie, and what has that meant to me? It's been a great deal to me because when I was young, I had one idea of Canada and whatever a country meant. I've always had friends from all races, religions, cultures, and and then I read the 94 Points of Action, and then I felt a personal loss in my French circle. My brother's girlfriend is one of the missing and murdered, and that happened back in the 80s. And just the whole reevaluation of what our society is in totality, as opposed to just the one facet of it, which I'm familiar with. And in that spirit of that, I sought to do, I guess I could call them acts of reconciliation or acts of contrition or what you would, to express my pardon me, to put forward my energies, the best gifts I have to offer towards expressing these truths more clearly through a series of public art murals. And in the last 2 years, I've been able to do, I think it's about 5 pieces at this point with respect to that. A couple of them I did through a program at the local high school, which was a program on Aboriginal or Indigenous studies, pardon me. And then 2 years ago was when I first met Jeannie. We did the healing path, and that was Jeannie's first entry level experience in mural art, and she came in as the knowledge keeper, which of course is the right way to do work related to Indigenous themes, is to connect to find that connection to the Indigenous community and follow respectful, proper, truthful lines of communication through a knowledge keeper, or via through a knowledge keeper to reach out to the elders and to reach out to the community of large, and to have that and to enter into it and enter into these types of projects, so that spirit of respect and a mutual well-being. So that's how I met Jeannie, and since then we've done several projects, and Jeannie's a bit of a gangbuster. So she likes to dive in at the deep end, and she just you know, she paddles her heart out.
Okay, so Jeannie, tell us
Yes.
about this new creation. We have some
Okay,
photos
so
too. Yes.
Yes, so the title of this project is Mashka Wigabawid Abanujiag, Stand Strong Children. And this is to commemorate the history and legacy of the residential school. So myself and the Interlake Art Board, we made application to Canada Heritage, and we did it in, we wanted to do this in the spirit of call to action number 83 of the TRC calls to action, which is, we call upon Canada Council for the Arts to establish as a funding priority a strategy for Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists to undertake collaborative projects and produce works that contribute towards the reconciliation process. So what you're seeing on the screen right now, that's the first section of 4. And this particular scene, this particular section speaks to the Indigenous spirit prior to colonization. And this is where we had everything that we needed. We had everything we needed on the land with each other. And the eagle represents the spirit of love. It's the traditional teaching of love over top of the village, over top of the community. And then I think that you can go into the next one. The next section also it's also a continuation of the way we lived. And then one of the things that we were given was that sacred medicine of tobacco that we always use. That tobacco comes first, and then going down the path, we come across that introduction of what's to come, the colonial interruption is about to come. So, and then you can kind of see where the people, where the one person has tears because they're being pulled away. So, and then if now you can come to me, you can Tracy,
Yeah.
you can
See? Yes.
okay, so right behind me, this is the third section of 4. And this is where the residential school comes in. And then if this was all in a line, that person who had the tears in its eye, and that in their eyes is because they're being pulled into the residential school system. So, and then the dates are 1831 to 1996. 1996 was when the residential was the last residential school. So this isn't just ancient history. This was within, our lifetime. And it was one of those residential schools was here in Manitoba. So, and then that information will all be coming forward.
Wow. It's simply
then,
amazing. No, it is.
It is.
You
It
know
really
what?
is.
We're going to get into more discussion because I see so many stories there, and we really,
Yes.
need to discuss this on how arts can bridge cultures. So I'm going to move now to Bistyek, another artist who has a very strong story to tell, and I'm going to let him do it because no one else can. Correct, Bistyek? and
Oh,
and again, you are a self-taught artist too as well, correct?
yes, correct. Well, I will start by saying my name. My name is Bistyek, and I was born in Syria from Kurdish background. When the war started in Syria, we moved to Lebanon, and it's been 4 years for me in Canada, and I came here as a refugee, and I am an artist.
But the story, though, for you, let's talk about what home means and identity, because I think your art speaks to that in a very strong way, and I think important lessons for all of us to learn.
Well, home and identity, it's really that it's two things that are always on my mind, that I think of it always. And I don't know if I have an answer for it yet, but like home for me would be any city, any country, any nation that I can be there with respect and freedom and being respected from the others. I think that would be my home. And as an identity, I would say my identity, it would be being an artist and making art.
How are you drawn to art, and how did you create your style? We're going to show some photos too, examples of your work, Bistyek. It's so, and Charlie can attest to it too. I mean, art, is in the eye of the beholder, but how did you develop your style?
Well, it's all start when I was like 5 years old. Back in Syria, we did not have a TV, and I will put like paper together and start to draw or make sketches. And I did a lot of cartoons, and every time I want to like escape the reality and feel like love and peace, that place that I can see myself, that I belong to, I would look at them. And drawing, painting was something always with me through my journey to Canada, but like I couldn't pay attention or be fully artist or put all my energy to it until I came to Canada, and that was 4 years ago. And when I came here, like I did not speak English, so I spent a lot of time learning the language, and then trying to find a job and work and save money. But like just a year ago, I was working in the coffee shop, and it was almost 12 afternoon, and I turned to my manager and I said, like, I want to quit. And I went home and I started to paint. And once I started to paint, I couldn't stop. And honestly, I did not want to stop. I just painted over and over and painted. And in 3 months, I almost finished 40 to 50 pieces. And it was, I don't know how to describe that. But that's how I start. And then, from the books and the internet, I start to look at the other people. I used to see a lot of paintings like by Picasso, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Van Gogh, but like I did not really know them or did not really know all about them, all about their art. So I start to buy books and kind of teaching myself or learning about them just by looking at the art in books.
So when you look at your drawings, I see faces, but they're abstract. I mean, they're not the picture perfect face, right? Like a
Mhm.
traditional artist. Is that something that's distinct for you and maybe kind of like a story behind it?
Uh, well, I don't, not really. Like it's when I was child, I used to draw like whatever people call it, naive style or many other things. It's people used to tell me like I don't know how to draw, or this is not the way you should draw, or this is not a meal. So they would ask me to draw them, and when once I do that, they would say this is not a drawing, this is not my nose, this is not my eyes, or and and by saying that, like I always felt like okay, like whatever, like I was, but it was always with me, right? And my style, I right now, like I remember it, it was just the same. It did not change. Somehow, like right now, it's evolving. Yes, every time when I finish a painting, the next painting could be like something totally different, sometimes like close to it, but I know like I'm going forward.
Oh, it's so amazing. Let's talk now a little bit about your family and what family means to you, because I see in the couple of photos there, two children. Does that symbolize something for you?
Well, of course, like growing up, the only things that we had was like as like my family and I was like ourselves. So the only thing that I had was my siblings and my mother. My father passed away when just after I born, and being in a society that woman has no right. My mom struggled a lot, and we faced a lot of discrimination, racism, and and we did not have a lot of support from our uh, friends or relatives. So it was really hard for us.
So I do have a question actually for
Mhm.
you, Bistyek. When you're feeling at a low point, does your artwork excel?
Sorry,
When
can
you're
you repeat?
when you're feeling low and maybe depressed, does your creative force and does your artwork bloom? And like you said, on that one instance when you left your job, you had a big
Yeah,
painting
yeah,
spurge. Yeah.
yeah. Just before like I quit my job, with a lot of changes in my life, being in third country, a totally different culture, language. Uh, 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 I have brothers in the war right now in Syria, and all the other things around me, and a lot of pressure. That's pushed me somehow to quit my job, and when I went to home and I start to paint. And I always say like if I did not paint at that point, I somehow I would be in the places that I no one wants to be in there, or I would be in really, I don't know, it's in bad places. But like when I start to paint, I start to express myself. And I always say like I'm not much of talker because uh, that's not my way to express myself. So being a painter, that's one of the reason or like I express myself. It's one of the ways that I express myself.
Yes, it's your voice, and you
Oh
should
yeah.
never stop.
Yeah.
So, well, yes, so much more to learn from you, Bistyek, and like sort of, we'll talk more on what you think of Winnipeg, but I want to go to Duncan, and my first question to you, Duncan, is what are some of the tasks of Winnipeg's poet laureate?
Well, this is one of them. So I have to
Being the
do
rock star.
I have to do these when I'm requested and things like that. And I did workshops with some other writers. I've done a couple of Zoom events like this. I do storytelling on Zoom, but which I don't really like because I like to move around and tell stories. And sitting still is just it's impossible. And it's
Well, you know what?
you don't have the same effect when you're watching the audience in front of you as opposed to having watched you on the computer.
Well, we could have had you playing pickleball there over with Jeannie in Selkirk and doing shots. So,
Because I like to watch. I like to watch the people in front of me when I'm telling stories. I want to know if I'm actually reaching them, especially children. You have to be in front of children to tell stories. I mean,
you have to be in their face.
Does not work, and they have to be part of that story because I like to include them in my stories when I'm telling them.
Oh, wow.
And so most of the time it's been just Zoom. We're supposed to be doing a couple of events, but we can't do it because of COVID. And I told them I wouldn't do it on Zoom because it's not going to work. Because I want to invite people that I've done stories with and did poetry readings with, and that was my plan, was to actually have an event somewhere where people could gather around us.
Oh, I know.
And I could share the talents of the other people that I've actually done work with.
So for you, Duncan, your power are words and your talent for storytelling. So maybe take us back into how you began using your words as your art form and as your voice.
Well, it took me a long time. I grew up in a small community up in northern Manitoba and Grand Rapids, and there's no TV, very little radio, and we were an isolated village, and so all our entertainment came from the storytellers in the community, and my Kokum was one of them. And so we were the lucky ones because we stayed in the same house as my Kokum, and so I got to hear all the stories that she would tell when other kids were around. They could just sit and listen to her while she was sewing, while she was beading, whether she was working on hide, moccasins, mucklucks, that she would sit and she would tell stories the whole time, and I would just sit beside her and just listen. And of course there were the evenings in the wintertime when my cousins would come over, and then she would share other stories with everybody. And then there was people that would come into the community and they would tell their stories. And so, and I went to all of them, as many as I could, because I loved the stories and the way they were told. And she had told me that this is what you should know. This is what you have to know. This is what you have to know, which is listen. You listen very carefully. You make sure you understand what people are saying. And I said, well, this is what you're going to do. And I didn't know what she was talking about. So this is what you're going to do, because I'm a Cree Métis guy. Like you're expected to follow your dad's footsteps as a Métis man. But I wasn't a hunter. I was a lousy fisherman. I didn't care too much for camping. And so all of that would, but I love to tell stories. But not being a hunter was a bit of a disappointment for my dad, because that's not what Métis sons do. You know, they don't tell stories. That's other people's work. But my Kokum told him no. I said, you leave him alone. You leave him alone. This is what he's going to do. And so she knew a long time ago I was going to be doing this. But I fought it for the longest time. I did not want to be a storyteller. I did not want to be a writer. And when I went to Cranberry Portage, I actually went to Cranberry Portage, and my mom had given me a book, and the book was Half-Breed by Mariah Campbell. And I realized, wow, we actually do this, because I didn't know that before. So I read that book I don't know how many times, and picked up all the books I could when I was in Cranberry Portage. I love to read, and I did a little bit of writing there. Graduated from there, but unlike my because of our Métis background, only one of our family members could actually go to university, and I had an older brother, so that was his job. And so I went straight to work, and I worked in bush camps all over northern Manitoba. I was up there for years. The blue-collar world, I started to see the world through different people's eyes, especially the blue-collar workers. It's completely different from how I grew up. And I started to absorb everything that they were talking about, how they talked about people of color, how they talked about people that talked differently than them. And and I retained all that. But I didn't talk about them. I just kept listening to all the words that they were saying. And then I was telling little stories to my daughters when they were small, and my wife gave me a little piece of paper and says, "Look, they're looking for writers for this publisher, Spamicon Publishers." And I said, "Look who's going to be there." And the facilitators were going to be Mariah Campbell and Jordan Wheeler. And she says, "You have to do this." And so I sent them a little story, and they accepted me to be part of the workshop that they were doing for the 4-day workshop, the writing workshop. And so thinking, well, I'm just going to do the 4 days. I'll meet Mariah Campbell, get her to sign my book. And I had met, that was the first time I met Jordan Wheeler. I knew his mother because I'd met her before. And, but I know he was a writer. Yeah, and so I got to know him really good. He became a good friend of mine. And they accepted the stories I sent in. And then I thought, okay, that's all done. I'm not going to have to do this again. You know? A couple of years later, during the Oka crisis, we had another workshop, and again, I was invited. But this time for my poetry, because I had written a bunch of poetry when I was growing up. And so they invited me, so I did 4-day workshop, and that was the first time I had to get up in front of people to actually do a reading, and scared the crap right out of me, because it wasn't something I wasn't used to doing. But I managed to make it, and then my first book came out, and 3 more followed quickly. But there was something missing in that process I was going through, and I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what I was missing, but I was becoming disenchanted with writing. But I kept writing because I had to. There was no choice. I really wrote because that helped me get rid of all the frustrations I had about working in the world I was in, and not seeing any kind of changes happening, but there was something missing. Mm-hmm. And so again, my wife again says to me, "Look, the school would like you to come to the school." She was a teacher. She says, "We want you to come to the school and do a storytelling with the kids." And so I don't do children's stories. And she goes, no, they're going to be giving you a book to read. So this is a love to read month. So they'll just give you a book to read. I said, okay, I'll do that. I can do that. So there was 2 other readers in front of me. So they did their reading, but I noticed the kids were not paying attention at all. You know, I mean, reading a book to children is not the thing you do during the day. And I realized, well, oh man, I just got myself into a hell of a pile of dog poo here. I don't know what I'm going to do here, you know. So they gave me the book, and I started reading the book. And little girl in front of me says, "Oh, I read that book last night," you know. So I lost them; they were gone. I mean, they were all over. The kids, the teachers are trying to herd them back to come and listen. And I realized, okay, there's something. This is not right. So I put the book down, and I told them a story that I knew. And they all came back, and they sat in front of me. And they sat still for the whole time I told that story. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, I'm done, I'm good. And they said, no, we want to hear another one. I ended up having to tell 2 more other stories. And that's what was missing, mm-hmm. that oral tradition that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. The stories, the way they were told. And I realized my poetry was actually following in that way that they were telling stories. They were indigenous storytellers have a very poetic voice, mm-hmm. when they tell stories.
Most definitely.
Completely different than
mm-hmm.
you would say walking into a white audience and you're listening to a storyteller.
And
completely
it's
different than what indigenous writers do.
And even listening to you talk now, I mean, when you get to the part of the story where you won the kids over, your whole voice and demeanor changes too, Duncan. So it is definitely powerful, and people do need to listen. I have a couple questions, and we'll get everybody's mic up too. Just unmute yourself. So the first one might be, well, it involves all of you. are you ever nervous when showing your art for the first time and worried about the response, a bad one? I mean, Duncan, you already said how nervous you were in your first reading. But for Bistyek, Charlie, and Jeannie, and my goodness, your works are so large too as well. Bistyek, do you ever get nervous?
Well, not really. It's I don't think about what the feedback's going to be, and honestly, until this point, I did not ask anyone, what do you think about this painting, or what do you think about what I do, because it's something that I need to do and like to do. It's and also like love to share it with others. So for me, I don't think about it.
Wow. How about you, Jeannie?
You know, I don't think that I get nervous, but I know that I'm exposing a part of myself. I'm making myself vulnerable by sharing my experiences. But at the same time, I'm also ignited. I'm ignited by the opportunity to do this, to share these stories, because this is part of my healing, not only my healing, but also of my ancestors and of my children and of the next generation. So what they say is 7 generations ahead and 7 generations behind. So with that, how can I be nervous? No.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
So maybe then for Charlie and Duncan, I'm going to give you this second question. What advice do you have for kids who are being told that they shouldn't be wasting time on art and storytelling? Charlie.
Forget about it. Hey,
Yeah.
here it is right here. In one word. Forget about it.
Okay.
So don't ever let anybody stop you from pursuing your dream. Ignore the noise. If you listen long enough, the noise becomes music.
Aw, definitely. Duncan?
Just do it.
Yeah, well, that's probably what Charlie's saying. I mean, the same thing with me. When I do my workshops, I'm always asked, well, you have to critique the writer, and I say, well, I don't do that. Those are their words. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, because that's their words. As far as I'm concerned, they're telling me a story. I want to listen to their story. If I want to see a piece of artwork, I want to see this. I want to know the story behind that piece, because there's a story behind every piece. As far as I'm concerned, when they do art, there's a story behind there. When I look at it, I want to see the story. And for kids, to tell kids that, well, you shouldn't be doing that, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for the one that's telling you it's a waste of time, not to the child.
Exactly.
The child finds something there. Let them explore it.
So then maybe spilling on all of that, how do we keep the ball rolling? How do we instill art? I mean, well, Bistyek is a perfect example of a young up-and-coming artist, but I mean, for all of you, and maybe this is a good question on mentorship too, like we see with the relationship with Charlie and Jeannie. Bistyek, do you see yourself as a potential mentor for other young artists that have the same feelings for you, like you, and Duncan too? How do we keep this going? Who wants to go? Who's got an answer? Charlie?
I'd like to go first if I could.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been doing this for 33 years. I've painted murals all across Canada, United States, China, as far away as China, other parts of the world. The things that are consistent are, as a non-verbal form of communication, it appeals to everybody. And everybody, in a way, we are all in one way, shape, or form connected to the creative force of the universe. We just all experience it through different ways, and it's often said that being an artist, and I agree with this, being an artist isn't something you learn to do like a trade or vocation. It's something you discover about yourself. And then the challenge becomes, how do you reconcile this self-awareness the society and the environment that you live in. And for those of us who have plowed through those, gotten past all of that, gotten past all those societal and conditional and marginalization or cultural directive kind of blockades, those of us who have plowed through, it's our role. We've carved a path, and then we've carved a path through our life and our behavior. And then it becomes a matter of how do we pay it backwards instead of paying it forwards? How do we step up? And the first way we step up is by example, through our behavior and our actions. And I think it's important for those of us who have gotten to a certain level to not be selfish with the gifts we've been given. And I love the word gift because it's a gift you really have to work for. Let me tell you, I can't tell you how much, I can't even begin to express the amount of sweat equity I've put into the path my career has taken me on. And you can talk to Jeannie, or you can talk to anybody who's ever stepped up to the plate to do a monumental project. Or as Duncan has expressed, by the way, thank you, Duncan, for sharing your stories. Thank you, Bistyek, for your stories. And Jeannie, you know how I feel. And I think Bistyek and Duncan have touched on a lot of very truthful points. I really liked what Duncan was saying about the fact that storytelling is a living thing. It is not a, we tend to objectify the world around us. It's the nature of Mara, the realm of illusion, to disguise its true nature. And I think it's through our creative powers that we dispel the illusion and we find that living dynamic. And it's like I like to think about things electrokinetically, or it's like an electrical connection. It's like we're all connected, and the living narrative of a storyteller speaking directly to a group of children, or for myself, of just manifesting a creative process for all to experience, to leave that footprint, to leave that stamp, that document. A piece of artwork is really a documentation of an experience that really is there for anybody to read. And you don't have, irrespective of language, it's a nonverbal narrative. And I think in order to inspire the generations to come, that this is something that's worthy of sustaining and coming back to, and then showing them how to, and then showing them, turning on that light bulb, showing how that can be done. I'm a huge fan of, sometimes I call myself a working class metaphysicist in the sense that
it's all those years. It's all those years,
yeah.
Charlie.
My head's up in space, and my feet, but I'm always there, nuts and bolts. And I think that through that, I'm a believer in neuroplasticity, which is the capacity of our mind to forge new electrochemical pathways through the brain. And art is one of the most fantastic ways to forge, to make those new connections, to grow your mind and to process. And I mean, every time a child sustains their connection to that creative force, it compels them to become something more. It compels them to wonder, to probe, to question, to think, to connect to the people around them, to heal if they've been injured, to grow if they're in fertile soil, so to speak.
Wow.
So yeah, we just have to you have to be relentless.
Yes.
You have to be larger than the forces that may suppress the creative. You just have to be bigger. You just have to play a trump card on anything that will stop the creative force.
Well,
so, and to add to that, Charlie, is also to keep our eyes out for those who might be the least likely to evolve into these artists, and
Yes.
because I've seen that in people, and I was one of those people. I was the most the least likely to be in this role. So I think that that's what I like to do too. And Charlie, I do that. And
You sure
I
do.
always have my eye out for
You
potential
sure do, Jeannie.
people.
Yeah.
So
You keep it open, you plant those seeds, and you see what takes root.
Oh,
Yes.
that's beautiful. Okay, so I think we have that one answered. I'm going to go to Bistyek. I have another question, and maybe to you too, Duncan. I want to hear from you. Do you get praise from your own people? So maybe Bistyek. It's a curious
Uh,
question.
do I get, sorry, can you
Yes,
repeat?
I can say it
What-
again. Do you get praise from your own people? Obviously about your art.
Praise, like,
They love it. They think it's wonderful. They're intrigued by it.
well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer this because as I just had my first solo exhibition last year, and as I opened the door and people start to come in, it was not only for my people, or it was for everyone. And I got a lot of feedback, and I was always in the gallery, and people were talking to me and asking a lot of questions, and I tried to my best to answer these questions.
It's a bit overwhelming, or it was a bit overwhelming, yes.
That's
Yeah.
a tough one to answer. That's a tough one to answer.
Yes.
Yeah,
You-
exactly.
you-
It's
You put
there
it,
is a
you put it out there, and you don't know where it's going to go. You just put it out into the universe, and you hope you hope someone picks up on your signal, right,
yeah,
Bistyek?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
How about for you, Duncan?
I would say probably the younger ones seem to appreciate the writing part of it, the written part of it, the poetry. I did have a little bit of grief from people in my own community when the first book came out, and the following ones too, because I was touching on subjects that were still a bit taboo in our communities. We're talking about the church, we're talking about sexual abuse by the priests and things like that, and it was difficult for them to actually have it out in the open like that, because they prefer to keep it hidden and bury it, and so that was a difficult part. They didn't mind the storytelling; they liked that because I'm telling stories about Grand Rapids the way it was before Hydro got there, and they were happy with that. Okay, but once I started writing about what was actually happening within our communities, then they kind of shut down, especially my own community, because a lot of the stories with other societies were happening in Grand Rapids, but before Hydro changed completely 180 degrees, and having those situations occur and then retold later, years and years later, they felt uncomfortable reopening those old wounds, but I couldn't let it go. Okay, I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let them tell me what I could and could not write. This is what I've experienced. This is what you experienced. People should know this. But I have to get that 50, that even. You have to even it out. You have to get that balance. So the storytelling balances the truth of what my poetry is about.
Oh.
And so there had to be balance there, and then I just, after a while, I just said, "The hell with them, I don't care." So
Well,
this is what I am. This is what I do. If they don't like it,
Yeah.
well, too bad. You don't have to buy the book. So
But that's so truthful, and I hear that same commonality through all of you, is that this is who I am, and I don't need any kind of acceptance. This is the truth. We need to hear about this. I do have another question too, and maybe let's take this into the whole creative process. How does, for Bistyek and Charlie and Jeannie, you're looking at a blank canvas. Is it a story that's in your mind first, or do you just doodle something, or is it, do I see color in this and I just see no color? And then for Duncan, I mean, when you're writing a book, and you're trying to convey all these thoughts and feelings about something that was taboo, how does that creative process all start to spill out on the pages? So I'm going to go with Jeannie.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I'll start. Okay, so what I did is I engaged with families of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and then that was with the other mural. With this mural, we engaged with elders, with Elder Ernie Daniels, and then myself, and then with the artist Jordan Stranger, and Charlie. So we developed this this design process along the way. So it was important to take those opportunities to listen and to sit with each other, to hold that space and develop the story along the way. And this was engagements, like 3 or 4 engagements with the MMIWG. It was probably at least, I engaged with at least, I don't know, 12 different opportunities. So it wasn't just, and then we also have to, I also considered my own experiences, but it wasn't just about myself. It was about that bigger picture, that bigger story.
Yeah.
So it was a collective.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Bistyek, what is it like for you, the creative process?
I usually start painting and when I feel that I need to paint, not just because there is an empty white canvas in a corner that need to be, colored or something. And when I start to paint, it's usually there is a lot of image in my head, voices, words, a lot of feelings, and I would be painting, and while I am painting, my painting will be changed always until I reach the point that I feel like this is what I want and what I felt inside, and now it's out, and it's neat, or it's good to be shared with others.
Oh, nice, beautiful. And Duncan, for you, getting those words out on the paper?
Well, I don't usually just sit down and say, well, I'm going to write something about this part of my life. It's just words that suddenly just pop into my head, and then I'll just start writing. Whatever comes out is what sits on the page, and so it's really hard to explain how it happens. I mean, it just happens, and this is what the one I wrote for the poetry day, and it was just something that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to write, and then I just went for a walk, and I thought about walking with my granddaughter when she was about 4 or 5 years old, and I took her everywhere when I walked, and then we would meet people that I met on the street, and would talk to them, and which was annoying to her because she wanted to keep walking, but I wanted to see what she saw through her eyes, and so I wrote something on that. So and I called it "What a Wonderful Walk This Is." What a wonderful walk this is. I can catch a falling star or ride the northern lights. I can travel to the moon and stars. You are the one who walks with me. I can see the universe through your eyes. Why is the sky blue? Why is the water wet? Can I whistle the northern lights down? Where will I go if they catch me? What a wonderful walk this is. I see the person through your eyes. What is he doing? Does he have a home? Does someone love him? Why is he on the street? Does he have a place to eat? What a wonderful walk this is. We heard a wolf one night. You said you caught it. It's in my head. Want to hear it? Just put your ear against mine. You howled. I heard the wolf. Then we caught a falling star. We hitched a ride on the northern lights, then danced to the rhythm of the seasons. The wolf sang a love song that echoed across the lake. We tried to sing the same song, but couldn't remember the words. We left that path and tried another way. What a wonderful walk this is. The song we heard was City Blue. It slipped between the alleys. We danced to a new song. It made us stumble and fall. We tried again and again until we understood the song. We embraced its message and the rhythm that it was carried on. But we did not forget the wolf song, kept it close to our hearts. What a wonderful walk this is. We left this dream to catch another. We approached another door and entered, knowing that trail we were up to step into would take us to a new world. Yet the door we left behind remains open. We knew, even though the path was different, what a wonderful walk it would be. And I wrote that in one sitting. And I just kept it like that. I didn't change it, and because I was seeing the world through my granddaughter's eyes when she was small. I recaptured it in that piece, and that's how I write. That's exactly how I write.
Oh, well, you help us all, every one of you, see the world through a different light. So I'm just going to go around with one question, maybe to wrap things up, and something that you can think about, just sort of what your life would have been without art, and then sort of what art has brought to you as well. So it's kind of seeing the two polar opposites. Charlie, but the clock is ticking.
I'll keep it short. I have absolutely no idea. I don't even know what life is like without art making. I don't know. Moot point. That's parallel universe talk. I don't know. Don't even know.
So then on the other end, what has art brought you?
I feel connected to everything all the time. That's it.
Nice.
Oh, very profound. Okay, Jeannie, you can follow your mentor.
Okay, for myself, you know what, art, like for me, it's part of my spirit, and it gets me in touch with my spirit, with my Indigenous identity. What has it done for me? You know what? That's to be determined. And I mean, it's leaving a legacy of just a profound legacy that's going to go well into the future and going to leave a mark, of we were here. So, and not just me, but it's we. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Duncan?
What it's done for me, I got reconnected with my kukum. I mean, she's been gone since 1963, but I got reconnected to her and the stories and what she gave me. She opened my eyes up. I mean, I was gone for a long time, but she reopened my eyes to what we are as Indigenous peoples. And what has it done for me? A lot of headaches. So,
I forgot to mention that.
because I'm always asked to do readings and workshops, and I'm a very private person. I'm an isolationist more than anything. I don't like to go out at all. But I have to. And so it's been really hard. So it's actually been both ways, I guess. It's been an annoyance, but it's also been kind of a rush at the same time. But I still get nervous. I still get really nervous. Every time I get up to read, I still get nervous. Take me a couple of poems to actually get into the groove of what I'm trying to do. So.
You would never know it. Never know it. And finally, Bistyek, for you, I know it's just beginning.
Yeah. Where will I be like without art? For sure, I will not be here seeing all of you. And what art brought to me would be a lot of peace and a lot of freedom that I can use and express myself and express what I'm feeling right now as someone's living on this planet, and a lot of things happening in North America and Middle East and Africa and around the world, and try to use it like strongly or more often.
Well, I wanted to know, what do you think of Winnipeg, Bistyek?
Uh, Winnipeg, I like
Cold?
Winnipeg. I love, it's cold. It's cold. Oh my God. It's really like friendly people.
You'll have to come snow carving with me next year, Bistyek.
It's
Minus
really
40.
cold.
Woo woo.
It's yeah. When I arrived here, it was like I know like it's cold and all that, but I did not like really expect this minus 27 or 30, and it's really cold. But like it's a great city to start,
Oh,
and it's multiculturalism and it's a it's a friendly city.
oh, well, we're so happy to have you. And I think I got my answers from my questions at the very beginning of the show. Yes, I believe art can gap the bridge between cultures. And yes, I believe that words can heal wounded hearts and bring people together. I just wanted to share something with you. I just saw it today. The ache for our home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can all go as we are and not be questioned. That's from Maya Angelou. And I just find that all the works and everything that we talked about tonight are truly that. And I just wish that may all of us find our own way home and let it be beautiful with art and spoken word. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on Healing Hearts. Special thanks to IPW Immigration Partnership Winnipeg and Knowledge Keeper Clayton Sandy, co-creators of this show. And invite all of you to join us April 21st for the next edition of Healing Hearts. I wish you good night, stay safe and healthy.
Good night.